Alright, welcome back. This is part 8 of the Photoshop Advanced Editing. And in this video, if you haven't been watching the previous ones, it's going to seem a little off, but we're trying to make everything look not too modern because this is a 40s, 50s type picture. So this is the only thing, in my opinion, that kind of gives it away. There might be a couple other things, but this is obvious. So really all I really want to do is get rid of this kind of anti-skid pattern stuff on the bottom of her shoes. So we can do that fairly easily. So here's where we are with everything else. This was our skin softening layer. I'm going to create another layer on top of this one by simply clicking our new layer icon down here at the bottom. And we'll call this, keep it simple, shoes. And really what we want to do here is we really want to, the easiest way I think to do this that I found is maybe fill this with black or a color similar to what's already here, and maybe add some noise to it to keep it consistent and reduce the opacity by just a tad. And then of course maybe you can or can't see it here, but we have a highlight coming across this shoe. This little swirl right here is not really a highlight, it's just I think a different type of colored rubber that's there that makes it look like it, but our highlight's running across here, so we probably want to keep that. So the first thing I want to do is create this outline. Since we have this kind of oval organic shape here, I'm going to jump to the pen tool by pressing the P key. I'm going to click right here at the top and just drag out a little bit. Click down here, drag, so I can circle that. Click about right here. Click about right there. Click over here. Click over here. Click over here. Now I don't know if I can do this and do both shoes at the same time. I think I can. Let's see. I'm going to click here. Click here. Click here. If you don't know how to use this pen tool, there is a video on the pen tool I suggest you watch. There's plenty of videos on YouTube out there about how to use the pen tool. Very annoying tool to learn how to use, but once you do, it is unbeatable. Takes a little more time, but unbeatable. And let's see here, something like that. We might have to tweak this a little bit, but that's okay. We can do that. We don't have to get too detailed here. I think we're good here. I'm going to hold down Command and hit the return button, or Control Enter on the PC. That's going to change that outline to a selection. We're on a new layer, so I want to fill this with the color that I'm trying to replace, which I'm going to use the color of this shoe down here. So I'm using my pen tool, I'm sorry, my eyedropper tool. Took a sample of that. You see my foreground color just changed. Then I'm going to fill this with the foreground color, and we do that by hitting the on the Mac it's Option Delete, on the PC it's Alt Delete, and that fills that with black. Now obviously that's not the best. The edges are a little too sharp. I'm going to blur those just a little bit, so let's go up here into Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and I'm just kind of looking at that edge. 3.5, let's go to 2. I don't want it too blurry. Maybe 1.9. I'm just kind of eyeballing this. Say OK. Then I'm going to change the blend mode here to overlay just to see. I'm not sure how this is going to work, because the whole point of this is to get rid of those lines. That just made it too dark. So another way to scroll through on the PC, it's a little bit different, and I'm not sure I can remember it off the top of my head. Basically, if you just hold down Shift and the plus minus, you can scroll through these different blending modes up here to see which one kind of looks best. And I'm just scrolling through here until I see one that I think I can work with. So far, I'm not seeing anything. I have a feeling that because those lines are in there, that no matter what I do, we're still going to see those kind of no skid marks on the back of that. See, we're back to normal. I didn't see anything. So we're just left with that. So I'm going to leave it like that, and let's see if we can get away with this. Remember, we're just trying to sell the fake. So I guess probably in those days those shoes wouldn't have had any type of oval in here, but let's just go with this for now and see if we want to change something later. So anytime you fill something on the normal layer, it's just going to come up flat. There's no color differentiation. You know, this is going to probably be more in shadow. This is going to be more in highlight. So what are we going to do about that? Let's turn this off and see what kind of light, what we have going on here as far as our light pattern. I know we have a highlight coming across here. Obviously you see this highlight coming across here. It's deeper in shadow up here. It's lighter up here. So we kind of want to keep that consistent that way. So let's go back to this and see what we can do about that. We want to put a shadow across here. So I want to create a new layer, and I'm going to clip this layer to this bottom layer. If I don't, let's say if I take my brush tool and I want to put a highlight across here, I'm going to put my foreground and background color back to its default black and white by just pressing the D key. And I want to change swap the foreground and background colors. I want the foreground color to be white, so I hit the X key. So now we have white. I have a nice soft brush. I'm at 10%. I'm going to go to 50%. And I'm just going to draw a line across here for a highlight. Okay, obviously that's too much. And as you can see, it's, you know, I did a very sloppy job. However, if I clip this layer to that layer, then this highlight that I just drew can only be drawn on the pieces of this layer that I actually drew. In other words, it will not show up on the transparent areas of the image. It will not show up out here where these black and white checkerboards are, right? So I'm going to go down here and create a clipping mask for this. And the way to do this is to hold down the Option and Command, at least on the Mac, Option, Command, and hold your cursor right in between the two layers. And on the PC, it's going to be Alt and Control, and you're just going to put your cursor in between here till you see that little box and click. And you see how it indented that, and then it clipped that highlight that I drew right across the bottom of her shoe. Now it's too much highlight, and it's a little too defined. I think I'm going to blur that just a little bit. So I'm going back here to my Gaussian blur. I did the shortcut for that. Let me do it by menu here so I don't lose you. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and let's go up a little high on that. A little higher, a little higher. So it kind of looks more like that's a little sheeny for me. And I know it's too hot, but that's okay. So about right there. And that's too much, so I'm going to use my opacity, come all the way back down to 0, and just add, you know, just a little bit to kind of give it a highlight on the bottom. Now to give this a little bit more depth, another thing I want to do is go back to this. I want to add some noise to this to give it some texture. So I'm going to go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise. 10% uniform, monochromatic, of course, that's way too much noise. Let's try 3. Maybe still a little tad too much. Let me go with 2. That's okay. We'll say okay to that. And I need to put a highlight over on this side. Now this one had a different shadow on it. Let's go back and take a look at this again by turning these two layers off. You can see this is like in shadow from this almost distinct line all the way down. So I think I might try a gradient going from this color black to a darker black. Let's just see what that does and if we can make that look kind of realistic. So again, I want to create a new layer. I want it again to clip to this one, to this layer here labeled shoes. So I'm going to select and make that a clipping mask too. So it'll clip to the first full layer, this layer. I'm not sure if I'm saying full layer, I'm not sure what you call it. It will clip to the first non-clipped layer. And then I'm going to select my gradient tool over here. I'm going to do a linear gradient. and I'm going to go from black to transparent right here. So it's going to go black. Instead of using white, we just go to transparent. So let's start here again and go this direction, about like that. So now we have this black. Now it showed up over here. We don't want that. We really just want it in this area. So let me show another way we could do. We could put a mask over here and then block this off so it doesn't affect this side of the shoe, or we can undo that and I can just make a selection that's only this shoe. Then I can put the gradient in here, go back to my gradient and go up like that. So now we have this black to shadow. Again, a little bit too strong for me. And remember, we almost had that distinct line there. So that's probably a little too much. I mean, it's not distinct enough. So I'm going to undo that. And in order to get a sharper edge on your gradient, you just don't drag it so far. If I just drag it just that far, so you get a much sharper edge. Of course, I don't want it that dark, but that's okay. I need to kind of keep in mind that here's, the line that came across here went, you can see the spot right here going from this to this right here. It kind of came in at this angle. So I want to keep that angle as I'm drawing this gradient. And I'm going to take this color black and something a little darker down here. And you can see, boy, it's almost that black, isn't it? So from that black, and I know it's kind of right here at this angle, about like that. Yep, see, that was the wrong angle. About like that. Better. Not quite as harsh as what's there. Let's try it one more time. Wrong angle. Kind of tough to get this angle right, isn't it? That looks good. I'm going to go with that. I'll press Command D to get rid of that selection. And this is a little too heavy, so I'm going to go a little bit lighter with it. Maybe something like that. And then let's look at it compared to the original. I'll turn these layers off. And I think we can it's a little bit darker up here in this area because we have this highlight coming across here. So rather than try to make this top darker, I'm going to create a highlight across the center here. So we'll put this back, turn these back on. I'm going to create a new layer again. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Shift Command N. That's Shift Control N on a PC. I'm going to put shoe highlight. And then we're going to take a brush, swap foreground and background colors, and we're going to paint white across here like this. It's kind of a larger area. So I'm going to go like that. Maybe come down a little for, oops. I think that's good. I'm going to blur this a little bit. Actually quite a bit, because it took up a kind of a broader area. That looks good to me. And then of course it's going way outside here. I want to clip it to this. So remember how we did the clip? Option Command on a Mac, Alt Command on a PC to clip this layer. Now it's to there, a little too strong, opacity. Let's come all the way down and we'll just come up just a little bit, about something like that. Now we're getting a little bit more realistic looking, kind of give it some depth. And let's back off here a little bit. Now we probably don't need to get too exact with that because that's not really the focus. That highlight might be a little too much, a little distracting. We'll bring that down a little more. Say to 11%. That looks a little better. So let's take a look at our before and after. Let's group this together. I'm going to select all these layers, hit Command G. That's Control G on the PC to group those together. We'll call this shoes. And then we can turn off and on the group. See our before and after. That's our before. That's our after. Before, after. So I think we can get away from that. I think we could sell the fake. I think if you didn't see me do that, you probably wouldn't know. Now you'd say, man, those are some nice brand new shoes, no scuff marks. Now if we wanted to get detailed, we'd put some scuff marks in there. But We're not covering that in this video. We're already almost 2 hours worth of videos. So we are stopping right there. There's the shoes. Here's our proposed edits. I don't know why we need to look at that again, but there they are. And here's our before. And here is our after. Before, after. Did you like the image before or did you like it after? I want to thank everybody for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at any time.